you pick a team. Pick a team or a player or a set. What would you like to talk about as like a big topic? We can end on this one.
All right, give me 1 second.
Like, what's interesting you at the moment? Like, who's are you vibing with, or who are you like out on?
Oh, dude, so now would you want to do Liquid?
We could do Liquid, because the problem is I've done sort of like G2 and Fears and some of the. I haven't talked about Liquid that much though, so yeah, I want to get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously we have to say that was a disaster end to their last tournament.
Mate, genuinely, at this point in time, I feel as though literally you could put 5 Scarecrows in Astralis jerseys and they would lose to them. Like, it's getting silly now, isn't it? There was no Glaive. The lucky guy, he's lucky to fucking be in that team. What's going on? Like, dude, and then you look at Liquid in this lineup, it's like, you're supposed to be world class. Like, and you were just wrecking like heroic. All like, dude, that was really crazy, wasn't that? When you were watching that game, I bet you couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, honestly. Well, I mean, for the heroic game, we were at Philadelphia, so it's all North American fans sitting there watching Liquid choke this 1v5.
No, but even then, they were so close to winning, so to go from that to losing Liquid, Astralis rather, is mental, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think for this team, I just don't understand what their direction is, because it seems like, personally, from watching Grim play in NA for so long, I know the sort of skill that he has, and I think that he can. I think that he can plug into like a much better role than he is in currently. And obviously, like, you can't really. Elige is a hard player to sort of take over any of those roles from. But at this point, they have to change something if they actually want to keep making progress. And it doesn't seem like they really want to like transition Elige out of any of his like regular roles either. So I have a feeling that Grim's just going to take the fall for this team. Like, you
think that's real? Where people were, there was a rumor like, he was going to get cut for, I can't remember if it's called Zero. They said, but, there was some rumor that he was going out, right?
As far as I know, that wasn't real.
Yeah, they all said it wasn't, but like, you're implying like that might be the move though, like the real move to make, right?
I think they might make a move where they cut Grim. I just don't know who they would possibly bring in. Like, I don't know if Cold Zero is really the addition to this team.
I mean, apparently he's in call anyway, but yeah, sure.
Well, I think he's also only on a 6-month contract or something anyway.
Yeah, if people don't know, even when he was going to join Fury or whatever the fuck it was, there was that weird angle where it was like, I don't know how. Listen, Cold Zero, you were a brilliant player, but just think how this sounds. You can't go, I'd like to join your new project. I'd like a clause which if anyone better than you asks me to join, I can leave your project. Like, mate, yeah. I think only like Simple could even say that, and even then you'd sort of be like, fuck off, mate, why am I signing you if just waiting for someone better to come? As far as I know, he's sort of done like a half version of that, like he's saying, Call, it's like, I will join, but only for 6 months. Like, all right, I guess. So maybe there's a world after the major he could join.
I think there's going to be a lot of roster moves after this major, because it's basically all of these teams that have been waiting for the RMR cycles to finish are going to be making changes, and there's, I think, a couple of contracts that run out at the end of the year. Obviously, Astralis, is known. But on Liquid, this hot potato that they've done with their IGL between Fallen and Stewie for the last basically year is also absurd. Like, I get it to a degree initially when they were trying to swap it out and get a feel for it, but the fact that they've now swapped, I think, 4 times total or something is absurd, because you're never going to establish anything solid with the way.
What I hate about that, it's like, in theory, both of them can be in IGL and have done it and have even been good at it, right? But it's exactly that. It's the fact that they just sort of, I'd have to look up the time span, but I feel like it is every 3 months. It's like they go, starting now, wait, starting now. It's like, no, it was starting when you made the lineup. Like, these results are all real, they all count. Like, you can't just keep changing and going, but I wasn't the IGL then. Like, no, you were 3 months before. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, I agree. Like, why did they not just pick one? Because my assumption, by the way, even though they initially obviously said it wasn't for that, I thought the whole point of getting Fallen was for him to be the in-game leader. Because, like, let's be real. Like, there's another one of those things you're not allowed to say. You're supposed to wait until he does, like, 2 good rounds against Furia. Are we all just going to keep pretending Fallen's like the fucking best AWPer still? It's like, he's actually just an okay AWPer at best. And I say okay because he can have big moments, but like, he has some games that are shit as well where he gets 12 kills, and he does have the most expensive gun. So in that scenario, it's like, look, mate, no one's hiring you as an AWPer, but I tell you what, as an in-game leader, maybe you can do it. Like, you've got all the experience, all that angle. So that's why, to me, the constant swapping it in and out, but not kicking anyone. It's like, it just feels like you're spinning your wheels. Or it's like a tactic, like, I think Firing Moses was like this as well. It's a tactic to just keep the org from cutting one of you. You've got to make some change that sounds like you can do something different,
I maybe you have some insight here, Nosy, because I have no idea. With Adren, you know, they got rid of him because they said that like they wanted someone who could call them out like on their mistakes and whatnot, and like, you know, like a fresh pair of eyes. Then they brought Moses in, and he was there for like no time at all. And you know, like when I heard that, I was like, yeah, Moses will definitely call them out. You know, like he's not afraid to tell people where they're going wrong. But then they're like, oh yeah, you know, we want to go like a different direction. And so I thought like it would be another new pair of eyes, right?
Yes.
Like if that was the whole reason. But then you just bring back the guy that you replaced like mere moments ago, and now the results feel shockingly the same. And I'm not trying to say, oh, it's all Adren's fault, because I think sometimes coaches do get like hung out to dry a bit, where they're like, oh, fuck him, it's, you know, it's Robban's fault that Faye's out. You know, fuck me, dude. Like, there's only so much a coach can do, and they do a lot of work. But I don't know. Like, why would you replace him, bring Moses in, and then go, oh, fucking hell, and then like bring back the old guy? I don't know what that was ever meant to accomplish at any point. Like, what did you decide? Actually, he was a good coach in that time, or like, I don't know. Maybe you have any kind of insight here. Or like,
I just know Adren adds a lot in terms of the amount of background work that he brings to the team, because he does have the tactical base. Yes. When they had Fallen coming in, who is not caught up on the current meta whatsoever, like the way that MIBRSK used to play is not even close to the way that teams currently play. And so he's even said in interviews that he spent the first 4 months in the team basically relearning how to play the game at the current level. And when Adren came in, you could see it in their matches immediately after that they were playing a lot more structurally sound. But even then, when they aired the clips of those when they aired the comms of some of those strategies they were running, Stewie was calling half the in-game like micromanaging stuff as well. Yeah. So it's still Stewie calling mid-round a bunch. So to me, I'm still a little confused as to how they're actually running their system, because it seems like they still have that identity crisis. As far as the coaching change is concerned, I think that the whole balance of having someone to call the players out, Fallen does sort of have that capacity. Right. But the problem is that Fallen doesn't have, like, he's coming into a team that's already a lineup that he's never been on. He's coming into a team where he can't really, I feel like he can't call these players out because he's also trying to learn the game again. And so if they're teaching him how to play, how is he going to then go in and say that you guys are doing this wrong? Right. Like, exactly. Because
otherwise you're just going to end up playing the old style, like, because that's of course what you would kind of tend back towards, right? The only way you can say that's wrong is if you're disagreeing from your own standpoint. And if your own standpoint is outdated, then, you know, you would be like getting in the way of progress. No, man, I agree. I really don't know what the, like, when I look at this team, man, I fucking casted that 5v1 like versus Heroic, which was, by the way, like, I'll just say, you know, I'm a bit of a fan of Liquid. I want them to do well. It was fucking heartbreaking having a cast. Like, it was incredible at the same time, because, like, my God, like, when, you know, within the context of 14-15, a 1v5 at a refresh with a Galil was fucking mind-blowing. But, man, like, watching that, it just feels like, I don't know, man, like this is like the most superstitious team in the world or something. Like they must just get in their own heads like, oh no, we're playing up against that team with the red logo again, a red logo and they're Danish. Oh, we can't win. Like, everyone hide, just don't fight. Like, when and you know, I think whenever you look at like a 5v1 like that, there's only so much like micro analysis you can do with the moves, but there was some stuff in it that just makes no sense. Like, you know, I think it was Fallen facing first from CT where he dies. I can excuse that death because you're 5v1 at that point, and he has just wrecked like 2 people coming in, so he's just taking a fight. Then I can't remember if it was Grim or Elige. It's Elige, yeah, runs through the CT smoke. That's like a very un-Elige like moment, but I think he's just trying to lay the game to rest, right? And it's like this idea of, you know, like being confident and just taking the fight and being there to support the teammates. But then it's like no one else was on that same page. Like, he runs through the smoke. You have 2 players backside. Like, if anyone swung that while Refresh is looking the other way, he's dead. Like, he can't win. But instead, the 2 guys in the site go, no, we're going to hide, because you can feel the round slipping away at that point, right? Like, you're in your own head already. You're going, oh my God, like, no, just play safe. But fuck me, man. Stewie dies over at Dark, and then Naf's like, borderline AFK. Doesn't even look like he's touching the fucking mouse anymore, like just hidden over at Nuvox. It's like, oh no. And of course, Grim wasn't going to win the clutch at that point. You know, like, you've just lost the other 4. The game's fucked and you're done. And I don't even know if you can mentally recover from something like that. Like, that's not like, you know, the Cadian clutch where, yeah, you know, it's kind of wacky. You know, he knifed you to win the round up against Gambit. But that's a little more forgivable in the sense that, you know, you don't have this big history of choking. You don't have all these eyes on you, like an entire nation looking on. You don't have these, like, you know, like, kind of visions of grandeur for your squad and what it means for NA. Whereas Liquid do, and it happened, and everyone fucking saw it happen, and everyone knows that shouldn't have happened. And so a part of me does wonder if, like, a roster change is kind of inevitable, just on the basis that they seemingly can't overcome the choking problem. And like you say, I don't think you get rid of someone like Fallen, especially when he's so new and he's a big brand. I don't think you get rid of Stewie, because him and Fallen are integral to the leadership of this team. Naf and Elige are the two, you know, kind of top performing players right now. So sadly, I think it will be Grim on the chopping block, and I think this guy has so much more to offer. And it's like, I don't even know who you would bring in to actually make the team better if you got rid of Grim. There's no one like on the tip of my tongue and I'm going, oh yeah, they should bring this heavy hitter in from NA. Like, I think you have some of the best players in North America right here, right now, and you still can't make it work. I am kind of still bewildered as well, as you know, you were talking about it earlier. I didn't really get to weigh in, but like the IGL thing between Stewie and Fallen does leave me scratching my head a bit with like how they're both attacking this role together and how it's swapped back and forth so many times. And like whenever you do watch those comm videos, it feels like Stewie's doing the bulk of it. Fallen's given quite a lot of room. But the problem is, like, when you're giving Fallen room, in the games where he's feeling it, it looks great, because like, it's kind of something to celebrate, like having like this vintage Fallen, you know, landing some cool shots and doing like this wacky stuff. But he feels very inconsistent. And like, especially as we got to the playoffs of Pro League, he did incredible in the groups. He was looking incredible, maybe overselling it a little, but he did good in the groups. He was playing well. And then we get to playoffs, man, and he completely he just fumbles it. And it was kind of heartbreaking, because I'm looking at it and I'm going, mate, you're so experienced. You know, like, you are the big daddy of Brazilian Counter-Strike. Like, you're one of the faces of it, the guy who helped put it on the map. You know, you think that as you get to those high pressure environments, that's where you can get the most out of him. But actually, it felt like, with the fucking curse that is Team Liquid, like, someone's always destined to have their worst game at the worst time. And so he kind of fell off in the playoffs. Elige had a couple of rough ones as well, which is unlike him. I just want to see Elige succeed. I just want to see Elige do well. And I can imagine that's the sentiment in a lot of NA. Like, this guy puts in a lot of work. He's been on Liquid for almost 7 years. Like, that is insane, you know? And yeah, you got the Grand Slam victory in there. But, you know, these are like past glories. And this team, I think, still has a lot more to offer. And I don't want to see the hope of NA just fizzle out and go nowhere, when they are the team that, like, North America looks to. You're not looking at EG, where it's barely even American anymore. And they're like this kind of, you know, Frankenstein's monster of a team that's been pieced together. And yeah, you've got some up and coming prospects. Mate, even like Bad News Bears are dissolving at the seams, and like, that's kind of, you know, really sad. But yeah, man, I want Liquid to do well, not just for the guys in the team, but for the entire region of NA to have someone to actually look to and be like, wow, look at these guys. They're doing it. They're making our region look good again. And that's why it's so heartbreaking that they lost in that 5v1 fashion. And their tournament appearances since have been pretty fucking dire. You know, like, they copped the L to Astralis. Like you said, Duncan, it just feels like you could put scarecrows in Astralis jerseys and they couldn't beat them. Like, I don't know. Does this team just believe in superstition too much or something? Is it like one of those things where subconsciously you're going, okay, guys, as you know, we're 14-5 up. This can't go wrong. As long as we don't let that old choke come back. Oh no, and then it just starts to happen. Like, you just will it into existence. I don't know what's wrong with this team, man.
I want to bring it back to what Note said actually about Grim, because I feel like that is the stupidest part of this roster the whole time that he's been in the squad. Because remember, they kicked Nitro to bring Grim in, which is what actually sparked the whole Stewie and then later Fallen have to be the IGL, right? Because obviously they traditionally hadn't been doing that role. Like, the big problem that kills me about this is the reason you recruited Grim, there's only one reason, is because he was mega hard carrying in Triumph, and he actually made a team that, look, you've seen what the rest of them done, like, most of them are just okay. NA. They made them competitive with the absolute best teams in NA. They were going head-to-head with Furia and EG and Team Liquid and Gen G. And so basically what you're telling me is you recruited their star player, and then in your team you were like, right, you just do a fucking role because guess what? We've got Elige and we've got Naf. And then later you bring in Fallen as well. It's like, mate, what is the point of that? Like, I don't get that move. Like, in that scenario, shit'll get off the pot. If you recruit him because you believe he's a star player, by the way, yes, only an online player, but he certainly appeared to be. He was fucking killing everyone. He was actually bodying loads of those games. In that world, I'm sorry, now the pressure's on people like Naf and Elige. It's like, well, listen, one of you, if you don't perform to that, this guy gets a go. I don't feel like he ever got a go. I feel like he was always just on the outskirts. And if you know the way power dynamics work in teams, again, it's like the JKS thing I said earlier. If you're Grim, you also don't come in with big balls and go like, all right, Naf, get out the way, I'm taking. Like, that's not, because you're thinking, dude, that guy was like the best player for like the last 3 years in this team, or, you know, Elige was like a fucking MVP all the time. Like, you just don't come in and do that. So unfortunately, I get the feeling like, yeah, logically, if you sort of go through all the logical reasons as to why someone would be kicked or be kept, and a lot of them are reputation based, obviously, he will just be the player kicked. But the problem is this, I'll tell you right now, Team Liquid, fucking mark this date right here if you kick him, and just listen, because this prophecy will come true. He will leave the team, he will go to like Extra Salt or something like that, or maybe, by the way, if you're unlucky, someone like Complexity maybe picks him up if he wants to go to Europe or whatever. He goes to some other good team, they'll put him in a star role, and you'll look like an actual dickhead, because you'll be with whoever the fuck, maybe you do get Cold Zero or something, but he will be fragging out of control, and then everyone will just think, why doesn't a good team sign him? And it won't be your team, and so basically you'll have just wasted your whole and you'll have never found out in your team if he could do it. Because here's the other thing, they've had that long dude that if they'd have just brought him in and given him like a load of roles initially that he could do, you'd also have found out just during the online era if he could play like that or not. If he'd have shit the bed after 3 months, you know, you say, okay, we tried the experiment, didn't work. I feel like they're going to leave him essentially on the table, and they'll never even know what they had. Like, was he actually good enough to do it, or wasn't he? I don't know from this team, because like, I look at him in the game, I agree with you, I don't think they use him at all the way he was using Triumph.
They don't at all. Like, I think he has most of his CT roles or something, -2, which overlapped with Elige, and then his T roles are entirely different. Or maybe it's the other way around, actually. Sorry, his CT roles are entirely different. So yeah, they don't use him the same whatsoever. And I actually talked to Sheikh Zula, his old in-game leader on Triumph at Philadelphia, and he's just like, yeah, they're not using him correctly whatsoever. So it's not even like just from based on watching them myself, from talking to players who've played with them before, they're saying they're not using him correctly, and it's very evident when watching their matches as well.
Oh,
like, you're not going to go and stick Nico. You're not going to go and stick Nico and Pit on Inferno or BAPS Mirage. Like, it's just an absurd waste of talent.
Because the other thing is as well, like, when the question is who do they get, like, listen, I get it if they get Cold Zero, because if you think about it, right, they've all lost to him loads, and then Stewie and Fallen are obviously like fucking his best pals in a stupid way, you know, as in they just like him and they want him in the team, all that jazz. Right, I get that angle. But my problem is this, if it isn't Cold Zero, well, there's a world where they might just get an NA player, right? If you learned nothing, like, if you then go and get OC, Fang, it's like, that's just what you did with Grim. They can't then come in, because everyone knows the classic example is NIP, right? NIP, no joke, was like, right, we've got 4 of the greatest players of all time, and then you're just doing whatever's left. And everyone who joined the team, it's like joining, you're just the janitor. I thought I was going to be part of the team, you know, in business meetings. It's like, nah, just clean up the trash and take that out. And then at the end, when your stats are shit because you're just doing all the worst roles, things you never did in your other team, they then just go, your stats are a bit like him, we're going to have to replace you. And then they just bring the next guy in. The next guy's like an AWP. And again, it's like, there's all your roles. It's like, dude, eventually you have to like change the core of the team, don't you? You can't just keep it can't always be the 5th player. I mean, logically he's not even in the team. So I feel as though unless it's literally like a game changer, they'll just do the same thing again, because there's something fundamental about that team where some of them do just feel like they've got their set defined roles. But if the team doesn't win, surely those can't be the roles. You got to switch it up, you know.
Yeah, I don't even think Cold Zero would work on this team because there'd be too many voices trying to guide it. You have Fallen, Stewie, and Elige, who are all already big voices on this team doing mid-round calls and adaptions. Cold Zero does the exact same thing. It's just going to be way too much. It's going to be 4 cooks in the kitchen, essentially, every round.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.